Hey there, all you jiu-jitsu people, beginners, medium, advanced, super advanced. This is Sifu Slim. I love jiu-jitsu. I would say Brazilian jiu-jitsu, martial arts, all combined has been the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. It's been grounding. There's been camaraderie. There's been testing yourself. There's been getting a good sweat. There's been the advancement. There's been the regrouping. There's been taking time away. There's been the love of coming back. Camaraderie, I'm going to say it again. Probably the number one thing that I enjoyed and still enjoy with the practice of martial arts. You do your practices on your own. You do some of your fitness training on your own. You live, you do all your things, and then you go in and you share with other people in that lovely martial art. So that's really cool stuff. And, you know, in the beginning, you bow in, you bow out at the end of the practice, and then you have a kind of a togetherness handshake and a little shoulder bump, hug, and you wish each other well. And even though you've competed for an hour and a half, 2 hours, trained and competed with your comrades and contacts, friends, all these people sharing in the wonderful art of martial arts, jiu-jitsu, all these lovely things. So I'm going to show you something. Today's video is called Surviving Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Sambo Jiu-Jitsu. You can say surviving martial arts, right? So this is my book, and I put this together because we had lots of curriculum. We were always learning new things. And so as we learned, we wanted to keep track of that, you know, just like you're going through high school, college, medical school, whatever, you keep organized. Now, you can't bring your laptop to martial arts practice. That'd be too cumbersome, and it'd be too much risk of injury and breaking things, your computer getting broken. So we brought notebooks with us, and then we put them off the mat, but we had them as resource so we could bring a sleeve, you know, a photocopy or a printout of what we were working on in a plastic sleeve, bring it out on the mat, and work on those moves. Nowadays, a lot of people are using their smartphones for moves, but again, you're going back to digital. There's a risk of injury. There's a risk of breaking things, and I think it slows the whole thing down if you're going back to your smartphone out on the mat. I think the paper inside the plastic sleeves is a nice way to go, unless you have a big screen and everybody is doing that same thing. I've seen the Gracie family work on, you know, the Gracie University, so people that live far away from a jiu-jitsu center, they can tap into that, and there are other programs as well to learn jiu-jitsu remotely, which, if that's all you have, that's a wonderful way to go. And you can learn a lot. You know, people learn golf on their own. I played golf with a guy who got to be an 8 handicap in less than 2 years, and he did it all on his own with books, and that was before YouTube existed. So pretty cool stuff. So today I want to talk to you about surviving martial arts, surviving jiu-jitsu. I've talked to lots of people, including Rickson Gracie, and he's a picture of Rickson and I on my LinkedIn page. So Rickson, unfortunately, in his 60s now, has compressed discs, which is painful, causes dysfunction, prohibits him from doing physical activities that he used to be a master in: surfing, swimming, running, jiu-jitsu, weight training, running up hills. Don't know if you ever played golf or tennis, horseback riding, all those things with a compressed disc. Can't do most of those things without suffering the consequence during the activity and après the activity. So unfortunate for him. What I learned at the same time as I watched the video of Rickson talking about his compressed discs is that heavy weight training anytime you put lots of weight on your spine, shoulder, carrying weight, things around your shoulder, carrying bags of corn and grain over your shoulder, all of those things, weight training, squats, deadlifts, clean and jerk, all these things are putting pressure on your spine, downward pressure. Now, I'm not saying to avoid all those activities with heavy weights. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, my guess is that there be almost no one who's done heavy weight training, all those activities I just mentioned with putting lots of weight on their body, that gets to be 60 years of age and doesn't have some type of spine problem. It doesn't have that. Once you have a compressed disc, or once you have a spine that's dysfunctional, then you have restrictions with your nerves, you have restriction in blood flow, and then you have cellular damage. And that's a big problem. Then you stop feeding that area with impulses from your neurology, your nervous system stops to fire, and you're getting less nutrients to that area, and they, for all intents and purposes, that area is dying or dead. And that's what you certainly don't want, right? So let's take a look at these grasses here. You have grasses here, areas that haven't been overused, and then you have an area that gets a lot of use, and it's alive to some organic matter, not as much organic matter as would be over here in the soil, because you have that whole microbiome of the plant and the composting of the plants, feeding the microorganisms and the worms and the worm casings. And then over here you just have dried out dirt, right? So less organic material. So you have more death here, more life there. So functionality. People talk about their fitness, and they talk about losing weight and getting ripped and looking better. That's one of the things. And then if you have a back problem, then you want back health and functionality. If you have an elbow problem, tennis elbow, carpal tunnel, all of these things, neck that's out of whack, you put the neck brace on, and then once that neck is ready to be reinvigorated, you're doing more massage, more physical therapy, more exercises. So all of those things are second or third tier reasons for people to get into fitness according to the studies that they've done. The first thing that people tend to want is they want to lose weight, get ripped, and get looking good. Okay, I can't argue with that. Those are things that people want. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the process of life and being in activities, what you want first is functionality. Okay, you got to have that. A hunting and gathering person, you go back to the 1800s and 1700s in this area, the Chumash Indians were here in Santa Barbara, and you had people who needed functionality. They had to climb these mountains, ascend these mountains or in the distance, go down to the ocean and fish, go to the rivers, and when the rivers are flowing, if they had fish, and you're fishing, and you're digging up grubs, you're digging up tubers, the root crops, you're growing things. You need that functionality to do all those things. It's the most important thing, to raise your family, to protect your family, to play with your kids, to have intimacy. All these things, you need functionality. Number one on the list is functionality. Number one on the list for brain health is functionality. You want your brain to work, okay? So for surviving jiu-jitsu and martial arts, the first thing you have to work on is being functionally fit. You have to be functionally fit. How do you do that? Well, go into yoga, go into Pilates, go into functional training, go into a calisthenic program, and see how functionally fit you are. Ask the teacher, the instructors in those various activities to assess your functional fitness. Can you do a plank and breathe properly? Can you do the yoga poses? Can you do the Pilates exercise? Can you do the hip medley in functional training? Can you hang on a bar? Can you do a pull-up? Can you do a proper push-up? Can you run with proprioception? Can you run with functionality? Can you walk backwards? Can you do all the stretches that you're supposed to do? So those are some things I want you to assess, being functionally fit. Part of your time in martial arts and jiu-jitsu is born in being functionally fit. As soon as you have a knee tweak, as soon as you have a neck tweak, as soon as your back is stiff and you have trouble getting out of a chair or out of bed, you know you're not functionally fit. You've got yourself injured. Maybe your injury came from not being functionally fit to begin with. Maybe you had inadequacies in your physiology. And they, of course, the weakest link, when you get pressure placed on that or you fall in martial arts, there's your injury, right? So the first thing to do is be functionally fit in your martial arts. The next step, in my opinion, is to go in with a certain mindset, and that is fitness, focus, flexibility, and flow. Those are the 4 F's of grappling, okay? The 4 F's of grappling. I think that's really important for you to remember. And then you'll have functionality. Put that in there too, 5 F's. Fitness, focus, flexibility, flow, and functionality. Do you have any other F words we can put in there? Let me know in the comments below. So that's those things you have to assess regularly. Next on the list is staying out of the ego. Yes, you want to do well. Yes, you want to know that you're doing the right thing. Yes, you want to know you feel pride in what you're doing. You're making progress. All that stuff is fine. Ego is fine, but you want to keep your ego in check. You want to receive the information from your body, from your instructor, from your competitors, from your classmates in the class of martial arts. You want to keep all that stuff in check and not get your ego out of whack. I can do, you don't want to lead with, I can do more push-ups than the other person. I can throw better kicks than the other person. I have better strangulation moves in jiu-jitsu, okay? I have a nicer gi than the other person, all that stuff. I saw very little of the excessive ego in jiu-jitsu. And I think the reason is because the newcomers come in there and they learn very quickly that the people that have been there for a while have that skill and all those 5 F's that I just mentioned. They have that and they're working on that. And the new person might come in and they might use football strength. They might use bench press strength. And that doesn't last very long. If you use heavy strength, 2 minutes, at the most 8 minutes, and then you're out of juice. Okay, whereas the jiu-jitsu people, it's called the gentle art, the soft art, jiu-jitsu. It's a different thing. It's not a striking martial arts in the way that it's practiced in the modern era. It's practiced with the 4 F's. Okay, and you want that flow. You want the breathing. You want the relaxation. So if you combine yoga and martial arts, jiu-jitsu is one of the leading martial arts is where you would land. Okay, it's that connection, mind, body, and spirit. It's the breathing, it's the relaxation, and it's knowing when to go and when to regroup and when to relax and wait and keep seeking your opportunity, okay? So those are some things I wanted to share about your survival in jiu-jitsu. Constantly assess those things, and then when you do have an injury that prohibits you from standing properly, from being pain-free, from walking properly, from sitting properly, then you have to take some time off. And then you have to get some therapy and do the therapeutic foam rolling, tennis ball rolling, dietary changes, herbal teas, massage, acupressure, shiatsu, exercises that are built for that particular problem that you currently have. Those are the things that you have to do. And I want you to assess that. I want you to learn from that and advance. My average amount of injuries in jiu-jitsu was 4 times. 4 times per year I would get injured. Okay, and I would have to assess. If something was painful and it wasn't healing, I took time off. And I think that's one of the reasons I've lasted over 20 years in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because I took time off. And oftentimes I went in twice a week. Whereas some of the people who went in 6 days a week, they were always in that inflammatory response. They were under-recuperated. They had that inflammation going, and they had that part of their ego that said, yes, I want to put my time in. Yes, I want to keep advancing. Yes, I want to learn more. Yes, I want to stick up for this activity that I started, right? I want to keep it up. And I think commonly that they never healed. And when you never heal, your body knows that, and it's just going to keep building up in your unconscious mind this idea that says, you know what? I'm going to have to take this person out for his own good, for her own good. I'm going to have to take them out so they step away and they heal, and they either leave the activity if it's a big problem like a compressed disc, or they completely heal and then they come back in, and then they are more circumspect. They're better at assessing how they're doing that program, how they are taking part in the coaching experience, in the learning from others experience, in their warm-up, in their drills, in their sparring and rolling, and then in their stretch and cool down at the end. A lot of people don't do cool down and a good stretch at the end of their martial arts practice. They don't do it properly. They may do it, and then they might go back in and do another 30 minutes of rolling with someone else, and then at that final one, they just may lay down, and then they take off their outfits and they let that sweat go. They take a shower and walk home. They don't do, a thing that would like open them up in a stretch, let their neck recuperate, do some rubbing on the back of their neck. Get that healing and that rejuvenation process going. A lot of that can be overlooked if you're thinking about going hard, and then you're so exhausted you don't do the rest of the program. So those are some of my tips for surviving martial arts, surviving jiu-jitsu. I'm Sifu Slim at sifuslim.com. Love martial arts, love jiu-jitsu, done a variety of martial arts, Jeet Kune Do, Taekwondo, Kali Eskrima, wrestling, boxing, done lots of different combat type things in martial arts, done lots of yoga, done lots of functional training. I pioneered something that's called Yoga P, which is yoga mixed with Pilates, mixed with functional training, mixed with calisthenics, mixed with Bruce Lee, and mixed with some Michael Jackson dancing and connection moves. So we'll take a look at Yoga P under my YouTube channel, and you'll see some information about that. I'm available for coaching, young people, middle-aged, old people of all ages, groups, webinars. Tap in on a Zoom call to what you folks are doing, and I hope to bring some wellness in mind, body, and spirit to your organization and to you. Aloha, Sifu Slim. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you the next time. Aloha.